Hey everybody, today is May 3rd and today we're going to talk about the price of Bitcoin, and we're going to talk about whether I think the price of Bitcoin can make a huge move soon to all-time highs, or whether I think Bitcoin is going to roll over and possibly continue down lower. Now before we begin this discussion, please read the disclaimer, and you can pause this video as you read it. Okay, so in the last couple of months, we talked about how Bitcoin has basically been going sideways in this Fibonacci channel, right? And we talked about how Fibonacci channels tend to act as strong support and resistance levels. And for example, we found resistance when we hit this Fibonacci resistance level before we broke in and went up higher. Then we found a little bit of resistance here, came up, found resistance here, but then we pulled back down to this Fibonacci support level. Found support, pushed that back up again, found resistance again. But finally, for the third time, we finally broke above this Fibonacci resistance level and it's exploded up higher. Broke above this level, but then we came down to retest that resistance level. We held it and flipped the resistance to support, and then we moved up higher. Found resistance here, broke it, came up, and then came down to retest and flipped the resistance into support yet again, and then ended up going up higher to try to break through this next Fibonacci resistance level. We got rejected here, we got rejected here, and now we are at this point where we're midway, a little bit above midway this Fibonacci channel, and I think that pretty soon Bitcoin will continue up higher and try to break above this Fibonacci level for the third time. And hopefully I do think that Bitcoin will succeed this time, right? Because we've been going sideways for a while, and usually when that happens, and there's been like people coming in and buying these dips, right? So, and this is a higher low. Usually what that happens is that they're just taking supply, more supply is being taken off the market as the price of Bitcoin comes down, and eventually there's just going to be more demand than supply, and that's going to push the price up higher, right? Now, besides the Fibonacci level, let's look at our moving averages. I like looking at the moving averages because they tend to act as strong support levels, right? We have our silver line, which is our short-term moving average, the gold line, which is our mid-term moving average, and the blue line, which is our long-term moving averages. The silver being the 50-day simple moving average, the gold line being the 100-day simple moving average, and the blue line being the 200-day simple moving average. Now, if we look at the price of Bitcoin over the last 6 to 7 months, you can see that the price of Bitcoin has stayed above even the most shortest simple moving average, right? And when we came down with our first major correction of 2017, we found support by bouncing off this silver line right here. And we also found support over here, bounced off. Now we failed to hold support in late April, which is why we had this pretty large correction down to our midterm moving average. So we ended up holding this level actually, and so we have a strong bounce. And I talked about how we might face some resistance coming back to the 50 days or the short-term moving average because we failed to hold that as support and now it's resistance. Now we had a first rejection here, and then most recently we basically pushed above. And now, and over the last 2 days, over the weekend, Bitcoin has basically been going sideways, trying to hold this level. And currently, we are above the 50-day moving average. But it's kind of hard to see, but I'll try to draw the line. So the line I'm drawing right now is the 50-day simple moving average. And right now, we are above that line. So as long as Bitcoin holds above the 50-day simple moving average, if we just look at the past price action of Bitcoin, as long as we hold that level, we should be able to come up and try to retest breaking the $60,000 to $65,000 level, right, which we were rejected most recently back in mid-April. And I do think that this time we'll have a higher chance of getting in, right, for the same reasons I said, with the buyers coming in and basically bidding up the prices and taking supply off. But also Bitcoin, when it goes sideways, it tends to have a history of having massive breakouts, right? Because when Bitcoin goes sideways, when it consolidates, when it gets a little bit boring, that's when the smart money is buying and they're accumulating, right? If we look back and Bitcoin goes up higher, this is going to end up being a reaccumulation period after a strong impulsive move up, right? And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Give the market time to rest, give the market time to coil, right? Move sideways before a huge impulse explosive move higher, right? Give the market time to rest. Give people a chance to buy the dip before a next move higher. And so that's where I'm thinking Bitcoin is going to go within the next few months, right? Exploding higher up to our next resistance level at 80,000. And I talked about this in our previous video, why I think 80,000 is the next resistance level or the major resistance level. And the reason is that Bitcoin has been seemingly moving in $20,000 increments, right? When our last major resistance level was obviously the all-time high set in 2017. just below 20,000, which is this gray line, right? And so of course we had some resistance over here, but $20,000, once we broke this level, we made a huge impulse move up to 40,000 right over here. And then of course we had this pullback to try to see if we can actually hold this level, and we did hold this level. Buyer stepped in and bought. Pushed up higher to our next $20,000 increment, which is 60,000 around this level. And so this is where we are right now, and $60,000 seems to be a pretty strong resistance level. So I do think if we break this, we'll continue up to our next $20,000 increment level, which is $80,000, and of course the big psychological number, which is 100,000, if we can break above 80,000. But let's take this baby steps at a time, right? 80,000 is going to be our short-term target in the next couple weeks. If we are able to break through this Fibonacci resistance level, then of course I think that we can see a huge impulse move, because Bitcoin always, when Bitcoin moves, it can move a lot faster and a lot higher than people expect, right? Like, were people really expecting this huge move so soon? I don't think most people were, especially before 2021, right? At the end of the year 2020, a huge move, and definitely caught me by surprise. But of course it's great because everybody who held Bitcoin made a lot of money at that time, so it's awesome. So really quickly, let's look at our oscillators. Oscillators are looking good. Last time I talked about how we saw the oscillator cross over here in our last video, and now there seems to be strong follow through, right? Increasingly large green histogram bars, which is very bullish, right? We want to see this downtrend we've seen in the last couple of months be broken, and once the MACD flips to positive territory, you want to see a huge push up higher, maybe pull back and a push up higher. But the point is we want to break this downtrend, right? Same thing with the RSI. RSI is still in a downtrend over the last couple of months, right? And we want to see the RSI, the momentum, shift to the buy side and push up higher. And the reason is that, of course, Bitcoin going up with the oscillators coming down, that's a bearish divergence, right? And so we're seeing a bit of weakness, but this is really not that bad, because the fact that we were able to hold and make like a small higher low right over here and over here, small higher low, buyers coming in and stepping in, and just basically pushing the price sideways while the SART money reaccumulates at these levels. I do think that eventually we will see the momentum shift strong to the buy side, but what we want to see is strong volume on the buy side as well, right? We want to see the price go up, but we also want to see volume to go up too, and that'll help push the oscillators higher and shift the momentum to the buyers with stronger conviction, right? Because right now there's not enough conviction from the buyers, right? The buyers are stepping in and doing just enough to keep Bitcoin alive within this Fibonacci channel, keep it from going down lower and perhaps reversing this trend into a bearish trend. So overall, you have to look at the longer trend, and the longer trend is that with these moving averages still postulated in a bullish manner, with us still making overall macro higher lows and higher highs, we do have a short-term lower high though. So we definitely want to, the next time we retest this 65,000 Fibonacci level, we want to break it above so we can start to make higher highs, right? But overall, still looking fairly bullish. So we want to give benefit of doubt to the bulls that they can take it this time and break above, right? Another thing looking good is the fear and greed index, right now 61. Even though that's technically greed, we still have all this room to run, right? Because in the past, when we had this massive rally, the fear and greed index was really elevated at greed for a long time, right? Like above 90 for a long time. So the fact that we're at 61 and we have all this room to go up higher, that gives me more conviction that this thing can actually rip higher. So our next impulse move, if we break this Fibonacci resistance level around 60 to 65,000, could be up to 80,000 fairly soon, right? And just really quickly, we did close the month of April, which we covered our last video, in red. When I made that video, the month hadn't closed yet, but we ended up closing a really fairly bullish, actually, red candle. So buyers came down, our sellers tried to push the price down, buyers came in and pushed the price back up. So these strong wicks. This is usually an indecision neutral candle, but I also talked about how on the monthly scale, this candle looks a lot similar to the candle over here, right, in January of 2017. And so if we follow a similar pattern, we should see an epic rally move up higher, right? So Yeah, but of course the past doesn't guarantee the future, right? Doesn't always repeat, but it does rhyme, right? The famous saying. So if we do see something very similar, then I think that we should see more epic price action to the upside throughout the remainder of the year. Now let's look at the dollar, right? The dollar, of course, has a strong correlation with Bitcoin, right? When the dollar goes down, it tends to be a strong year for Bitcoin. We talked about this many times in previous videos that, in 2017 we saw the price of the dollar come down, right? 2013 the dollar, there was strength in the earlier of the year, but at the beginning of the year, but throughout the rest of the year the dollar came down, right? So of course Bitcoin in a strong bull market in 2013 and 2017, but when the dollar found strength in 2014, see this huge rally, huge rip higher on the dollar, right? Also 2018, huge rip in the dollar. That put a lot of downward pressure on Bitcoin, right? There were two bear markets, 2014 and 2017, when the dollar was very strong. So there was a bit of a worry earlier this year that the dollar was going to repeat a similar pattern in 2018, right? But we've finally managed to reverse that direction, and now the dollar is coming down. So the fact that the dollar is coming down gives me more conviction that Bitcoin will likely continue up higher, right? Especially if the dollar breaks this multi-year floor. The dollar breaks this multi-year floor. See, the dollar comes down, fails to hold this support, and it goes down lower, then we can see Bitcoin rip up a lot higher. So just a lot of different indicators giving me bullish signs, or just more conviction that Bitcoin will manage to hold this level and continue higher up to new all-time highs. So that's what I'm looking for in Bitcoin. Just in the short term, I want us to hold, again, just to summarize, hold this 50-day simple moving average, this silver line. If we can hold this line, then we'll have a chance at trying to break this Fibonacci level, which we rejected in late April. And I think that if we can break this level, I think we're going to see a huge move up to 80,000, which is my next resistance level. And I'll definitely update you as we approach closer to this Fibonacci resistance level, and we continue higher to our ultimate goal of 100,000 by the end of this year, and perhaps even higher. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like this video, leave a comment below, and subscribe for updates if you found the video helpful, useful, informative. Thank you again, and I appreciate your support. Have a great day.